Welcome in to the penultimate episode of the Need for Screens College Football Podcast presented by the pregame.com podcast network. I'm your host, real_G Warner. I'm joined by @BigEastBen. We are here before the semifinal round of the college football playoff. We have weather concerns, internet concerns. Everything is a concern at this point, but there are only two games left before we crown a champion in that third final game of the season. We'll start and let's first feel how get some takes from @BigEastBen because that's where he comes from. The tabernacle of takes. @BigEastBen, what do you think about the college football playoff so far?
Yeah, there's internet concerns and weather concerns, but at least our neighborhoods aren't on fire like what's going on in California. Thoughts and prayers.
Yikes.
That's rough. I've been watching that stuff all day. If for all our LA uh, listeners, stay safe. Don't hesitate to evacuate.
Right. And wrap it up, right? Is that the third one you say?
Wrap it up.
I thought there's a lot of like fire babies out there. Anyway, as one of them myself, I guess I should stop making jokes about my hair color. We're gonna go and try to see. Okay, so we had just started this podcast before our internet decided to make us restart. You were giving us your synopsis of what's been a pretty dull college football playoff, in my opinion, so far, except for with my alma mater involved.
Arizona, Texas was cinema. Bo Scatabo totally backed up all his shit talking. I'm done clowning Kenny Dillingham. I am a Kenny Dillingham fan. Um,
Wow.
Kenny Dillingham is what Kurt Signetti wishes he could be. Kurt Signetti would never call a fake punt on his own 20-yard line against a top five team. Kurt Signetti would never call a halfback pass on 4th and 2 from the opponent's 40. Bravo, Kenny Dillingham. That was so entertaining. A
Oh
plus on
yeah,
that.
was it entertaining, huh?
Well, I had the betting wise, I had Texas minus 13 in the under, which I thought were absolute L words. But
Hmm.
yeah, other than that, very entertaining.
Yeah, not entertaining. So I was part of why I have huge baggage under my eyes, but I guess that's always the case. I was trying to take a nap because Texas took a big lead, and I was like, okay, after the Clemson thing where they're just going to stop them at the goal line 15 times and not cover the spread by half of a point, I was like, they're not going to let this Arizona State team come back here with a star running back literally throwing temper tantrums on the sideline, and then all of a sudden he does one good thing, the camera gets in his face, he's like, "I told y'all, I told y'all." Told y'all. I told y'all. It's like, yeah, we heard it the first four times you already had the camera in your face. It's not like they just didn't cut to you the first time. Also, seeing his dad in the crowd the whole time, like, think you couldn't come up with a better name. Except, I'm now going to name all of my children Bo, just for the hope that they'll eventually become I don't know what you call that, bowling ball running back potentially. And I gotta say, Kenny Dillingham probably learned the fake punt from Madden or the video game craze. Kirk Cinetti, 63 years old. Kenny Dillingham, only 34, actually born in the same year as my sister. So he's young and makes me really question what I've done with my life at this point. But just kidding. I'm here on the Need for Screens College Football Podcast presented by the pregame.com podcast network.
You've made it.
I've made it. And also, that's probably the best amount of words I've said without taking a breath in my lifetime. On this episode, we're going to go through both of the college football semifinal games.
I got a couple other things to say.
Okay, please. I'll introduce us afterwards, I guess.
I'm a big Bo Scatabo fan. Given that he does look like the type of guy that would drop something in a girl's drink when she goes to the bathroom.
Yeah. Don't worry. She really wanted Rohypnol alongside her six Coors Lights.
And then the other thing I want to say, Ohio State Oregon game was already over by the time the Peach Bowl was over. Did not watch a second of it. There was too much good college basketball game, too much college basketball on that day that I needed to watch. Um,
For our other podcast, the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast, presented by the pregame.com podcast network, which will also expand to two episodes as soon as this college football season is over. So we're going to do one more episode of college football. Then we're going two times a week at you in your ear holes, both of them, the rest of the season. And we'll even try to find some way to give you some winners on this podcast as well. Before we get to Biggie Spen's other thoughts, just to want to address, we're going to go through the two college football semifinals. We're going to come up with a best bet for our show that you grade us on, but then we'll also make a pick on each of the games with our biggest interest as of the 8th of January. What else you got?
Finally, on the Georgia Notre Dame game, what the internet did to my favorite SEC player, Parker Jones, was downright despicable. And the Bulldogs are going to rue the day that he transferred and they drove him out of the program because I saw that guy's high school highlights and they're not too far off from Bo Scadabos.
Yeah, Parker Jones, pour one out for him. Sorry, but at least you could go to any other school and not sit out a year anymore and don't have to even say anything about a racist first baseman at the Georgia football game who plays on the Georgia baseball team. As that's how Justin Fields got to Ohio State way back when. Yeah, that game, I guess I felt like halfway through, I was like, oh my God, Georgia might win this game. I had given out Notre Dame and then was like, man, I should have just played under here. Fortunately, Notre Dame ended up coming through. Though we could probably get into that game since it's the first one on our slate. I don't, so the weather concerns certainly in the Cotton Bowl coming up. I don't know that we have many for Notre Dame and Penn State. It, you never know what's going to happen, but in Miami Gardens, Florida, at the Miami Dolphins Hard Rock Stadium, I guess you only really have to worry about people wearing really lame t-shirts. Notre Dame currently a 1 point favorite. Total is 45 against the Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State with a pretty easy track to get to the college football playoff semifinal with a Boise State team that did win their conference, the Mountain West, but were pretty wiped away pretty quickly. At least it was my feeling of it. Under I gave out was never really in jeopardy, so that was a nice one. I feel like the Boise State rushing attack was kind of what they were trying to do and try to live on and try to do everything with. And that was only so great against Penn State. As we mentioned, Notre Dame probably should have played under there, but ultimately the side came through. Well, let's start with the Notre Dame side, just because I feel like they had the more difficult first game, or I guess to get here. What do you think about Notre Dame? How they looked? Was it just that they beat a backup quarterback who just really couldn't run an offense?
I mean, they kind of played similar to Texas, where they got like all their points in like 2 minutes with the strip sack and the big run. Um, so Notre Dame, again, has not been tested much this season. A big question mark for the Irish is whether or not Jeremiah Love is going to play because he's obviously going to rely on Riley Leonard's legs, but he has been an absolute stallion in these playoffs, and his status is not going to be known until warmups.
We're talking about Jeremiah Love because I was reading that they said he's going to play, but of course they're saying everyone's going to play. I think at this point, and I'm sure that will be very, very helpful to anyone betting on the game. As we've already talked about, and if you follow Big East Ben on Twitter or have listened to any of our podcasts, you know how he feels about college injury reports. The only things worse than college football injury reports probably are college basketball ones, especially after that Navy quarterback who was starting quarterback who missed the game, and it wasn't announced till like 36 minutes before kickoff when one of the fallen out of favor college football analysts or reporters finally pushed it out there on the Twitter, now called X, I guess. I feel like Notre Dame's defense has looked good, but again, who have they played? And the big pick sixes that kind of skewed a Southern Cal game, USC that might have even potentially swung who got into this playoff if USC had scored at the end. Instead, it made a 7 point game and a cover. It looked like a 21 point loss for USC. From the Penn State side, what do you think about the Boise matchup? And I guess what do you think? Because we've been pretty skeptical, maybe is a good word to describe our feelings on James Franklin.
I mean, I knew Boise was cooked after that first drive and that pathetic field goal attempt. So Penn State absolutely rolled them. What did Genty finish with in that game?
I think a few more rushing yards than me, but I didn't think he was that impactful. I mean, the yards I guess were there, but
30 carries, 100 yard, like not good.
yeah, like I mean, if you're just gonna feed someone over and over and over again, you're gonna put up yardage no matter what with the opportunities. But like very few big runs, it felt to me. And I mean, it's almost like Penn State went in there being like, okay, we're not gonna let you run. Let's see if you can beat us through the air. That didn't happen. Notre Dame feels like they have a less of a star running back, though certainly talented backfield, of course, with a lot more depth. But I thought Notre Dame really won the Georgia game with, as you mentioned, Riley Leonard running for first downs, sometimes catapulting himself in really dangerous looking type of jump opportunities to try to get first downs. I don't think that'll work very well back to back weeks, but if it worked against the Georgia defense that has probably more NFL talent than anyone else in the entire all of college football, maybe that's a good indicator. Feels like market's pretty split in this one, though, only making Notre Dame a 1 point favorite.
Well, a big question mark on the Penn State side, we already touched on Jeremiah Love, but is if Abdul Carter is going to play, probably the most talented defensive end in all of college football, 6'3", 259 pounds, 11 sacks on the season, 40 solo tackles, 2 forced fumbles. The guy's a beast. So I think,
Game time decision, it looks like.
yeah, I think Penn State can still hold Notre Dame's rushing attack in check without him, but if he plays, that is a big boon for the Penn State Nittany Lions. Given the unknown status, these two guys, given the defenses and how high caliber they are, both top five in points allowed, I'm gonna go under in this one.
Yeah, like under 45 in that matchup as well. We'll see. Maybe the weather might cooperate and dump some snow into Miami Gardens, Florida. We'll move to Friday, the January 10th game. Ohio State, they are in the great state of Texas. Just a few, actually, I could probably walk there from where I'm currently recording, but it is very cold out, by the way. Also, there's potential for a big snowstorm coming up, and you know how well Texas does in the snow, Big East Ben.
Have they played in the snow?
I can't remember a single game, maybe like an Iowa State or like a K-State or something in the Big 12. I'm just talking about in general. Texas doesn't have snow plows. They don't have really any possibilities of surviving. Like Atlanta always has a car on fire when there's snow there, the rare occasion that occurs. There's not a lot of preparation here because it's not worth it. I was thinking about building a snowmobile or snow construction or snow plow business, but because there's a ton of opportunity, but because no one else has one. But ultimately, the city shuts down, so it might be a really, really light amount of attendees. Half of my friend group thinks the game's at Jerry World, so they're going to be in for a really rude awakening on Friday night. But at this point, we are playing at the Cotton Bowl. It's where everything's been planned. The Cotton Bowl is going through a bunch of renovations, and they're probably taking a lot of money from this game to put back into that beautiful Cotton Bowl. Currently, Ohio State 5.5 point favorites. Total is 53. Do you believe? Of course, we've talked a lot about Texas because I'm biased and we force them into our rundown every episode we do, usually, if it's somewhat relevant, which it usually is. But they're 5.5 point dogs. We haven't seen that against anybody in college football this year. Favorite both times against Georgia, one at home, one on a neutral field. And I don't know where I was very surprised to see this big of a number, though certainly Texas has not looked great this entire season.
You want a winter coat?
I do. I snowboard from time to time.
Why are we talking about the weather in this one?
Because it's at the Cotton Bowl.
No, it's at Jerry World.
No, it's at the Cotton Bowl.
You sure about that? That
Unless
that tiny ass stadium is going to host the college football playoff game?
unless this has changed, it is at the Cotton Bowl. The Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic.
Yeah, you're
Unless
right.
there's been some breaking news, and this is probably why. I mean, like literally, it says
No, dude, it's being played at Jerry World.
it was at the Cotton Bowl, literally. Here we go. This is a fun game. Why would they call it the Cotton Bowl Classic?
Because tradition.
But the Cotton Bowl is a different stadium. Well,
I
this is
know, I've been there.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, wearing the wrong colors. Well, this is funny because I thought for sure it was at the Cotton Bowl. LOL.
Hey, finally, it happens at the other end of the screen. How's it feel?
It feels especially weird because now I'm gonna have to really undo a lot of things I said in my group chat.
At
Uh,
least I corrected you.
well, I was gonna go to the wrong stadium, and honestly, the Cotton Bowl is not really the nicest place to be.
So you have tickets?
I do not. I'm waiting. Well, I was hoping to be outdoors and people would be. freaking out and be like, we're not going, so we're gonna sell our tickets for real cheap. Wow. There we go. The Cotton Bowl Classic somehow is being played in Arlington. Wow. LOL. Anyway, I'm gonna have to really do some backtracking in my group text tomorrow, or maybe I'll just never reply again. What? I mean, to me, the funny part about this is that the Cotton Bowl is like very anti Jerry World because they feel like they're going to steal the Oklahoma Texas game and move it to Jerry World, and they've been like doing everything they can to stop that from occurring. I would agree that the Cotton Bowl is not as big capacity as Jerry World because what is in this world,
Who
but
owns the Cotton Bowl? The city of Dallas?
yeah, and so like that's where the state fair is, and like they, from what I've heard from the inside, is that they will never move that game. Uh, but this is, I mean, well, clearly I'm way off, and I'm still not even sure I'm wrong. But I guess we got to trust it because weird. Um, the statement says the highways around AT&T Stadium are already being brined in anticipation of the weather event. So like, I guess they maybe so. Cotton, where is the Texas Ohio State game being played? Anyway, keep going. Would you talk while I do some typing in the background, please?
Some backpedaling. Um,
Yeah, that too.
yeah, I mean, Ohio State, I was dead wrong about my take about Ohio State being a dead program. Ryan Day dead after that Michigan game. They've looked incredible. Um, that was a total demolition of Oregon. They got their revenge. Jeremiah Smith was uncoverable. Will Howard. Whenever I see Will Howard, he looks like the meme from Where the Millers, where it's like, you're getting you're making 100,000. I'm only getting 25,000. You're getting 25,000. I'm only getting 2,000. You guys are getting paid. He looks like that guy. Do you get that?
I mean, maybe so. I'm still just really shook by where this game is being played. Sorry. It's really hard for me to listen right now. Oh my God.
Um, but yeah, Texas, meanwhile, again, the peak is over. Like you guys had peak mid-season, and then since you
Did
started
we
playing,
when did Texas peak? Like who in this entire sketch, like I get it. Like there's certainly a lot of expectations on Ohio State side, 5.5 point
the
favorites is
Cotton Bowl,
maniacal.
you peaked after the Cotton Bowl.
I
That
mean,
was
we
the
literally
peak.
played Oklahoma ran one successful play the entire day and just ran it over and over again. They were like, LOL, keep trying it. Like I haven't seen Texas do anything good besides
The
like
Texas A&M game.
it was dominant, but A&M was like right there to cover at the end for sure. And like, I mean, that was a 10-point game against a team that was literally using junior high offensive linemen to try to mow over a huge beef packed Longhorn defensive line. I'm shocked, but like I'm more shocked that the Cotton Bowl would have sold out their naming rights to Jerry World. Oh my God, that's amazing. I'm probably not going to go now because like going to Arlington is a disaster, and getting back from Arlington, as you know, also a disaster. It just means you spend 10 hours of Texas Live on both sides of a game probably, and that's no fun for anybody unless, well, it's Ben's bachelor party, then it might be.
Ride the bull.
Ride the bull after everyone boos you off. Then
No
make sure
tip.
you plunder, pillage, and putt, I think is
Hey,
what it was.
yeah, for all our listeners, if you plan on riding the bull at Texas Live, make sure you tip them prior to they ask for the tip before you get the experience. So make sure you tip before
Why would you tip before you have the experience, Ben?
because otherwise your ride's gonna last 1.2 seconds.
Yes. Well, some of us can do a lot in 1.2 seconds. I guess we'll see. 'Cause I think I just broke a toenail somehow while I was making that joke. LOL. This everything's going wrong for me at the moment. All right. So back to this game. Ohio State 5.5 point favorites. Like, how do you get there with this number? I mean, yeah, Texas is like not looked good, I think, the entire season. Certainly not versus expectations. But I mean, this is in the state of Texas. Ohio State, I'm sure, will have plenty of fans. They'll probably walk all the way to the stadium because they are just used to it in C bus or whatever. Um, but in that climate controlled, beautiful rocket spaceship or whatever. 5.5 points just is like a gigantic number for Ohio State team that let's not forget that they did lose to Michigan that Texas beat. So on Michigan's home field versus Ohio State's home field. Yes, we shouldn't use the
By a lot.
yeah, we shouldn't use that like the property, whatever the property is. Not reciprocal, but a different name, transformative, whatever it is called. Like I'm still rattled, as you can tell. I just like this number feels gigantic.
Yeah, I'm totally in the same boat as you. I think Byrne is your corner, Jadon Byrne.
Sure.
He's played pretty well, 5 interceptions since switching from nickel to corner. I think he can contain Smith. I'm still not sold on Will Howard. Like when the moment gets bright, like that Michigan game, I think he can. You can
Jade Barron.
Barron, yeah, he can be forced into a lot of mistakes, and his b hole gets a little tight. Um, yeah, home state, Texas forever. Give me the Longhorns to cover the number. I think this is like a 3 point game. Ewers driving, 4 point game. Ewers needs a touchdown type ending.
I mean, there's a good possibility that Ohio State wins this game, and maybe they win by a touchdown. But for them to win a field goal game at the end or some ridiculous overtime, 5.5 would be very nerve-wracking in that scenario. But still, I mean, Texas has looked horrible all season, but we have been underdogged. I say we, I probably shouldn't, as we are a very objective, no biases here, despite rooting for our football playoff picks, and then whoever we have picked as long shots to win the college basketball tournament on the Need for Seeds college basketball podcast on the Pregame.com podcast network. It just feels like, I mean, I'm not giving Texas a home field advantage points or anything like that. There's going to be plenty of red. And I'm sure the Texas fans will show up because they're everywhere and there's more fair weather fans than I can ever remember now. That the team is finally playing well and winning. It just feels like this is too much to me. So give me the Texas Longhorns 5.5 point underdogs, and I'll join Big East Ben on that side. So looks like we are pretty simpatico for this entire slate, but I do want to make sure before we get to our best bets, I do want to give out our pregame.com promo code, which a normal podcaster would have had that queued up and ready to go as I scroll as quickly as possible to try to get this in front of me. Use the promo code BALLER20, BALLER20, good for 20% off for all listeners of this college football podcast, good for 7 days from the podcast release. Go grab the long-term packages. Big East Ben, Griffin Warner is my name on there, but at the real _G Warner across all social media platforms. Best spot to get, and we don't give more than 20%. So go use that, buy a long-term package, rest of the season through the end of the Final Four season, through the championship, whatever floats your boat, 90 days, 30 days, something like that. But it's better than just a single package. Go save 20% off and come ride with us as long as you see fit. Use that promo code BALLER20, good for 7 days. So you have until the 15th of January, but that's going to leave you with only one college football game left. So don't wait that long. Big East Ben, where do you want to go for your best bet on this episode?
Out of the two picks, the Ohio State Oregon game is too fresh in my head. The back. Texas here is my best bet. I'm going to go with the under in the Penn State Notre Dame game. Both teams take care of the ball. There won't be too many idiot points. I think this is going to be a grind out game. Clock is going to be constantly running. The ball is going to be kept on the ground here. Give me the under Irish Nittany Lions.
Under 45 for Big East Ben. Well, I guess I'm going to have to do it then. Let's go with the University of Texas Longhorns. 5.5 point underdogs. I'm going to hate myself, I'm sure, but I like it. I don't. I mean, I of course will be rooting for Texas to get through this game. Would love to win a national title because I haven't seen one. I got to school the year after Vince Young's title, and then went to Colt McCoy's national championship game my senior year. I also am shuddering to think of how expensive the national title game would be, but I guess I'll think about that later. If it ends up happening, I just think Texas is. I mean, as ugly as the season has been, 5.5 point underdog seems too giant, too big, too all those sort of things. Ohio State might win this game on a last second field goal, or they might blow Texas out. But we haven't seen that happen all season, besides a really bad first half against the Georgia Bulldogs. Ohio State's got plenty of talent, but I've shown, I think, bigger weaknesses. So I'll take Texas plus 5.5. Go grab Big East Ben's Notre Dame Penn State under 45. And that'll do it for this episode, the penultimate episode of the Need for Screens College Football Podcast presented by the Pregame.com Podcast Network. Go throw that promo code in there, Baller20, and we'll see you next week for the final. But before that, we'll also see you on the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast coming up Friday at an earlier time than the Cotton Bowl Classic, now that I think about it. And then it'll be ready for the Saturday slate of games. So we'll see you all soon. College basketball, Need for Seeds coming back soon. And then we'll see you college football next week before the title game finally wraps up the season with another Notre Dame national title. Just kidding. We'll see. But have a good one. See you all soon. And thanks for listening. Baller20, go save some money.